This is the Horse Radio Network.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here's your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Well, before we get the show started, Horse Radio Network for the first time has a wide selection of Horse Radio Network merchandise available for the holidays. Hats, saddle pads, masks, clothing, mugs, and so much more, either screen printed or embroidered. Get your orders in now for you or your HRN listening friends. Visit horseradionetwork.com and click on the banner on the home page today. Happy holidays, everybody.
I am Coach Jen in Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Mary Kitzmiller from Kemp, Texas, and you're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for December 10th, episode 2577. Today's show is brought to you by Horseware. Good morning, Horse World.
What is your favorite day of the week?
You never stop learning. You never stop understanding. It's more in depth than just riding a horse. Knowing that for the rest of my life I could work on this and I'll never stop learning.
Yay! Welcome back. How's Mary?
I'm glad to be back.
Mary is here the second Thursday of every month, and Mary, being the professional podcaster that she is working out the details of her new podcasting studio in the new cabin in the woods. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So exciting.
So it sounds like you're moving some things around.
Just a little bit, yeah. So
You're all settled in now?
All settled in. I do have a cat in the background that's probably going to be making some noise, but it's better that I let him out rather than lock him up, or you'll hear yowling the whole hour.
Yes, there's different kinds of cat noises, and some are less appealing than others.
Yeah, so better him playing with whatever he's found. He's out of my eyesight. I can't see him. If he's playing with something, hopefully it's not harmful. But if I lock him up, he just screams on for hours. So
it will be bad.
Yeah.
So
Still ironing out the kinks.
Iron out the kinks. That's right. Because when you podcast and you're a horse person, you kind of do it on the fly because that's the way horse people operate.
Yeah, I've done it. I've had my studio in my truck, on the road, and in my country ranch without any internet. So it's been very interesting. It's not always conducive to new technology.
Not always, but the new cabin in the woods does have much, much better internet. So as we work out the kinks of your operations, because right now Mary's microphone kicked the bucket. So she's using a backup system right now. So apologies in advance for slightly off-kilter sound, but the sound quality might not be the best, but the content is going to be just fabulous.
Awesome.
And we start out every show on the second Thursday of every month. Mary Kitzmiller dazzles us with a training tip. So I would like you to tell us what our training tip is, and if possible, what the inspiration was, because that's half the fun.
Yeah. So, and I think a few of the listener questions kind of lined up with this, and that's usually what inspires the tip. Is I'll get kind of a common thread amongst the questions. So, and I've talked about this a lot before. I don't think I've ever done a specific training tip about it, and it is training stationary behaviors in your horse. So what do I mean by stationary behaviors? Things like teaching your horse to stand tied patiently, teaching him to stand for the mounting block, to stand still and quiet while you're grooming. And one of my favorite things to teach, it wasn't always so, but teaching your horse to ground tie. So I don't know if that is specifically a Western term. I saw someone in a question use the term park which to me, park means a different thing than I think was in the
that's
question.
interesting.
Because I used to show Morgan. So park
was
to
different.
me was like park out. So the horse would stretch their front legs and back legs, and it was a way to kind of show off how elegant they were. But I think they meant like literally park your horse to stay still. So ground tie is basically that. You're not tying them to the ground. You ask your horse to stand, and he has no restraint. Some people will put a rein on the ground as a signal to the horse, like you are standing still now. I have a little cue I give my horse. I run my hand down his forehead and I say, whoa. And I do that like if I was getting ready to get on my horse and I realized, oh, I forgot my cell phone. It's over in the corner of the arena, or, oh, I need to put on my helmet. It's, hanging up. And I don't want to lead my horse all the way back over there. I give him the cue. I run my hand down his forehead and I say, whoa, and I go get the thing that I forgot. And he should still be there when I come back. So it's obviously, it's a good practical behavior to teach for convenience like that, where you can just have your horse stay and not run off just because you need to go pick up something in the arena or grab something you forgot. But it is also really good for your horse's mind, as with all stationary behaviors. And I've said this before, we don't work on this enough. And this is coming from someone who never used to work on these kinds of things because it's boring. It's not as cool as jumping or lead changes and all of that.
Most of your friends are not going to be impressed with, look, I got my horse to stand still. You're not going to post the video on Facebook or Instagram or anything.
Exactly. So, and I have gone from virtually never working on it ever to like getting really hyper focused on it. And so what I started doing is years ago, when I was really getting into positive reinforcement training and clicker training, I started getting asked to do demos on what I had done with my horse because people were really interested. At the time, there were just a handful of equine clicker trainers out there. And for a lot of people in my kind of industry, my little corner of the industry, they had never seen it with horses. So I was getting asked to do demos and stuff. And I was training my 4/6 horse Guthrie, and he had all these cool behaviors we had taught. But what I noticed was that the first few demos I did, when I was doing a demo, usually by myself, so I didn't have an assistant to hand me things or someone to hold my horse if I needed to go set something up. And there was usually not a really safe place to tie my horse up. Either the corral we were in was, kind of like temporary fencing that wasn't really sturdy, or there was just crowds of people. There was just not a great place to tie that I felt okay leaving my horse there. So when I would have to have him just stand still while I went to grab something, he didn't really have a good ground tie, and he would just be really playful, and he would pick things up off the ground or follow me around and kind of get in my pocket. And when you're trying to show like how great your training is or how great this training technique you're using is, and your horse is being just a little bit silly, it doesn't look great. And it showed me the need, like, okay, I have to teach this behavior. I need to teach him, it's cool. He can do liberty and he can pick up toys and hand them to me and he can lay down. But I need him just to stand still sometimes while I'm either answering a question or I need to go grab something, some tool. He needs to stand. So what I did with Guthrie was I actually used a rubber mat. It was just a square piece of cutout stall mat. So it's nice and heavy. And I taught him to put his feet on it and to station there, to stand on it. And that was a good visual target for him. Like, oh, when I'm here, I ought to stay here. Well, it was really easy to teach him to put his feet on it and he'd get the click and the treat. But I needed him to stay there for, maybe I like to wax on philosophically for a long time sometimes. And I needed him to stand while I was doing that and answering questions and explaining things. So what I started doing was kind of mimicking what I would have happen in the demo. Is I'd put his feet on the mat and I would tell him, whoa. So I would see, can I walk around while you stand here and not move? and, you stand and wait for the next thing. So at first I just picked a number. I said, I'm going to walk 5 steps. If I can walk 5 steps and you don't get off of the mat, I'm going to click and treat. And I could get about 5. 5 was like the limit. After 5, he was just understimulated. He wanted the next thing to do. He wanted to know why he wasn't getting cookies immediately. So he would leave the mat or come toward me. So instead of trying to then get him to stand for several minutes, I said, okay, I know you can do 5 steps. If you can do 5 steps, I know you can do 6. So I'd set it up again. He's on the mat. I tell him, whoa, and then I count my steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, click treat. And then the rule was, well, now that you've done 6, you're not going to hear click and treat until I make it to 7. So I would do this and just add 1 step at a time, 1 step at a time, 1 step at a time. And my rules were, you want to be really clear about what you will and won't allow. So my rules were, if he took a foot off the mat, but he put it right back on, that's fine. I won't ding you for that. This was in the summer I was working on this, and he has a lot of fly allergies. So, if he needs to reach around and scratch a fly or whatever, he doesn't have to be a statue. That is something I will allow. So things like that, he could place his feet in different spots of the mat. It's a really small area. So like if he picked up his foot and put it down, fine. So I'm not going to be that strict and make him be perfectly statue still. But if he left the mat or took a foot off the mat and did not correct himself, what I would then do is I would walk up to him. He didn't get punished. I just put him right back on the mat, and I would say, whoa. He would not get a click for me correcting him. So I'd put him right back on, and I'd say, okay, I was counting to 7. Now I have to count to 7 and start over. So if I made it, like if our goal was to get to 7 steps, and I made it to step number 6 and he left, I would have to put him back on the mat, tell him whoa again, and I'd have to start the count over. So we might be working on trying to get to 7 steps many times before he would get the click and treat. And I didn't do this all in one day. I thought, okay, today, let's see if we can get to 7 or 8 steps. And then I would go work on something else or quit the lesson and put him away. So I just worked on this over many, many days. And I think the last time I really worked on it with him, I got up to 186 steps.
I can't count that high. I get bored and lose track.
I know, right?
Wow, yeah. I'm impressed.
With the eventual goal of getting to 300. And the number 300 is a number I borrowed from another clicker trainer who uses a similar type of method for teaching duration and behaviors. And 300 is the thing she used. And there's a whole backstory on why 300. But 300 was kind of like my mental goal. I made it to 186. And that's like, a long time of standing still. And 300 is like several minutes. So if you think, man, if my horse can stand still for several minutes, he's got it. Like he's got this behavior down. And because you're only increasing the duration that you want him to do it, 1 step at a time, it's little bite-sized chunks of behavior you're building. It's good for keeping them from getting too frustrated or from getting confused or from completely losing interest. And it's something, you can work on it 5 minutes a day and it adds up over time. And what the really interesting thing about this was in the beginning, Guthrie had major ADHD. He knew I had cookies. He wanted the cookies. He thought he should get the cookies after 3 seconds of doing something. So he was real, like kind of ants in the pants. He would stand there and be good because he knew that was his job, but I could see it in his face. Like he just wanted to be done so he could get the cookie. But then after a while, there was a huge change. He started like loving the mat. That was his happy zone. He sometimes, if I have the mat in the arena and I'm doing Liberty with him and I'm not really clear on what I'm asking, he will leave me, the person who has the cookies on my person, and go to the mat because he loves the mat. And the reason he loves it, especially using positive reinforcement, is because I've never punished him for not doing it. He only gets rewarded or not rewarded. That's pretty much it. And so there's no bad connotation that he connects with it. He only connects it with like warm, fuzzy cookies. And, when I do this, everything's great. And so he got to where he would just do it to put up with me to get the cookie to, oh my God, I love this mat. I will. And I've seen him go stand on it when I'm not there, if he's loose in the arena. So like it was really kind of interesting how a behavior that at first, he was really young when I started this. So he's kind of this young antsy ranch colt. He went from, oh, fine, I'll just do it, to, oh my gosh, standing still is one of my favorite things to do in the whole world. And if you can get your horse in that type of zone, then when you're in more stressful situations and you tell your horse, hey, guess what? Let's do our stand still behavior right now. They're like, oh my God, thank God, yay. Rather than what happens to us so often is we need our horse to stand still or stand tied, and they're antsy, and now we're at a really stressful situation. So it's really hard to get them to come down and relax.
Yeah.
So working on this kind of stuff at home can save your butt when you're out, doing things with your horse.
Pretty darn cool. And it's such a useful skill. Whether you use a target or not, it can apply in so many spots. So a great tip. And speaking of antsy, everybody's getting a little bit antsy because it's the holiday season and they want to go shopping for holiday things. Well, guess what? Horseware, them, the folks who make the really wonderful Rambo and Amigo rugs. Well, they have their 12 days of holiday deals going on right now. So if you go over to horseware.com and click on the big red banner, you're going to find some pretty cool stuff. Right now, they've got a crew neck base layer on sale, regularly $30, $14.95, and it's chilly everywhere, even Florida right now. Just putting that out there. They have Amigo Hero turnout rugs on sale, a whole bunch of other stuff. So go over to horseware.com, click on the 12 days of holiday deals, and click on there and see what's going on, because it's going to change every day because, hello, it's 12 days. So thank you very much to Horseware for helping to bring this show to you every month, because if it weren't for Horseware and the other sponsors, we wouldn't be here. Dun, dun, dun. So, antsy again. We put out the call for listener questions, and we've got time for one listener question before we go to our holiday radiothon segment. So what's it going to be?
I'm going to go with Karina Marot's question about deworming.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So it's a little off what we were going on about earlier.
Well,
but
I don't know. It could relate because, hello, they have to kind of stand still for a little bit while you deworm, right?
Yeah. Patience and putting up with stuff, putting up with all the weird things we do to them. So her question is, what are some tips on giving my 2-year-old Mustang deworming paste? He's very suspicious of the tube near his face. I can stroke his neck with it in my hand, but I can feel him tensing as I get closer to his face, which is typical of many horses. So there are 2 ways to go at this. There's the slow way and the fast way, and both have their practical use. So the slow way, and you've already got a great head start on it of, having the tube in your hand and you're rubbing him all over with it. This is something you can practice when you don't need to deworm him, so that when it is time to deworm, it's not such a big, novel, suspicious concept for him. So, you can get a tube of dewormer or an empty tube that you've already used and put it in your hand and rub him all over, and use a little bit of approach and retreat. So if you can rub him, like, say, at the base of his neck and he's fine, start there. And then when you feel him tensing, as you move the dewormer up his neck and you feel him start to tense, hang out at that kind of red zone for a little bit. Don't go any further, but just hang out there until you feel him kind of let up and relax, and then retreat back down to the spot where you started, where he felt more comfortable. And you could do that until you're all the way up to his face. Rub it all around his face. You can also do things like just sticking your finger in his lips like you're getting ready to, but not actually deworming him. The other thing you can do is you could take that empty syringe and fill it with something delicious like molasses or honey or something that is going to taste really good that your horse is going to like.
And may I insert in here, because we've fallen into this trap before, test and find things that he loves without using the syringe. Because a lot of people, because a common, put applesauce in there. Well, not all horses like applesauce. So find things that will come out of that tube easily and test them by just putting them in a bucket or putting them somewhere where he is comfortable eating them, and do that first and make sure he really loves it before you put it into because I discovered that Nigel doesn't really like applesauce. I didn't know.
My horses don't like apples and carrots, which is just weird. But
he loves it when I put molasses in there. He's great with molasses. And you believe it or not, you can buy El Cheapo off the shelf house brand pancake syrup, which is basically just Caro syrup and dye.
And do a little research, make sure it's safe. I think most of those things are pretty benign. But
test them.
But yeah.
Baby food, carrot baby food works for some horses who love carrots. Some horses like banana baby food. So get a bunch of stuff out and, do a little testing and video it and put it up on the Horses in the Morning Facebook page.
Oh, that would be cool. Great science experiment.
So continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so you can start giving him those delicious deworming tubes. And then when you do go to deworm, hopefully he's much more manageable. And the trick here is when it's time to deworm him, have the tube of actual dewormer and then have the tube full of yummy stuff. So I would deworm him first with the, do your whole process that you've been doing, deworm him with the dewormer, and then deworm him, or then put the yummy stuff syringe in his mouth. So that way, he kind of ends it on a good note, and he just thinks, you must have given me one that was out of expiration date. That was a weird taste, but this one's good. So it's not quite, they kind of gloss over, they forget that there was one that didn't taste quite right.
Yeah.
And so that's the slow way. This is going to take some time, some practice outside of when you actually want to deworm your horse. I learned the fast way when I was in a barn full of reining horses. We had 100 to do that day. And there was a girl on staff with me. We were going through and deworming, and I'm doing all this desensitizing and approach and retreat, which is all well and good. But when you have 100 horses to do, you don't really have the time. And this gal who was with me on staff had worked in a sale barn where I guess they had to do this quite a bit, give their horses things in syringes. I don't know. I think dewormer, I'm not sure. But she'd worked in a barn where this, it's strange horses and they all had to have this stuff. And she would just kind of hold the horse by the side of his halter, and if you could stick your finger in the corner of their mouth, not in between your teeth, like up alongside their teeth, if you can hook your finger in there, I've found that no matter what a horse does, almost every time, if I can get my finger in there and keep it there, I can get the dewormer in there. And so it's kind of it's not the best way, but it is a quick, hey, I have to get this in you now. Let's say it's a horse that's colicking and you want to get Banamine paste in them and you don't have time. I've gotten really good at, I just hook my pointer finger in the corner of his mouth, pull the corner out, and I can just go right in with the dewormer. And it takes a little practice to get efficient at it, but it is a way I don't have time to do the whole thing. This horse needs this medication or whatever immediately, and we've just got to get it done with as little fuss as possible. So that's the quick way.
There you go. Something that I've found helped a little bit too is different wormers do taste different. And some dewormers come with flavorings, and there's a couple of them out there that are labeled as apple flavored.
Yes.
I don't remember the brand offhand, but that did make a difference to some of the horses I've wormed over the years. If you get the apple flavored one, I don't know if they are apple flavored or not, because I taste a lot of things my horses get, but I have not tasted their wormer. They are certainly apple scented. And I think that might be what is doing the job, is a very, very strong apple scent. So, that might be something that you could clue into too, if the particular active ingredient that you are using is available in a flavored version. Might not be a bad idea to try that.
And most of the time, ivermectin is the one that you can find in the different flavors. I'm not sure I found it in other active ingredients, but
is it fenbendazole? There's two.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've used the apple flavored ivermectin, and there's another chemical that is available in an apple too that I've tried, and it was one of the really offensive, stinky yellow ones. So check that out in your shopping, because why not stack the deck on your side, right?
Make life easier.
Make life easier. Great stuff. And because it's the holiday season, we've been taking bits and pieces of the past 5 years worth of radiothons and inserting them into the shows the past couple of weeks, just because we need a little holiday cheer. It's 2020, people. So we're going to sit back and enjoy this. This is actually a interview that you and Tara Carter did in, I don't remember what year it was. It might have been 2015, but with Reata Brannaman, Buck's daughter.
Oh, I think it was like 2017, maybe.
Was it? Yeah. And it was a fun interview. So we're going to sit back and listen to that. And then we're going to hear a little bit from one of our other sponsors. And then when we come back, we're going to chat with listener Kristen about her problem. So sit back, enjoy.
So we'd love to welcome Reata Brannaman to the show. Reata's made a name for herself as a horsewoman and a businesswoman. I mean, to add to the list of things that she does, and I know a lot of you guys are excited to hear from her, and you probably know the many hats that she wears, and she wears them well, but I think it's worth mentioning that, you know, she's a cold starter, she's an instructor, a trainer, a competitor, a producer, a model, a cook, and really one of the top cowgirls in the country. So
and that's all at the age of 12.
Reata. I know, right?
Yeah.
Not quite. She's yeah. So Reata, thank you so much for joining us. And how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
So we've been talking a little bit about Christmas, and Mary was telling us about Breyer horses were one of her past favorite gifts. And then I had said that we got William a pony for Christmas, and that was one of my favorite past Christmas memories. But what would you have as one of your favorite Christmas horse Christmas either memories or present? What maybe you're hoping for Christmas this year?
Oh man, you know, it's funny because I think every Christmas is kind of a horse Christmas, because it's not like I had anything else besides ponies and horses and Breyers. I think my mom still has all my Breyer horses from when I was growing up. But you know, my dad got me a pony, I remember, for Christmas one year when I was little, and I had her, I still have her. But I think another thing that stood out to me was he actually gave me one of his old saddles when I was little. And even though it was really big for me, then I still have it to this day and I still use it. But, you know, I wasn't ever sure if, you know, once I got a little older, I realized that maybe he just forgot to get me something for Christmas and just gave me the saddle because it was there. But either way, it still meant a lot to me. And, you know, it's something that I'll have forever, and I still do. And I still love to use it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it fit your pony? Or
you know, I'd ride it on bigger horses too,
Yeah.
but I always had, my parents made sure that I was well stocked in ponies growing up, so I had a lot of different sizes of ponies.
Yeah. What was the first pony you got? What was her name?
Oh, my first pony's name was Tuffy, and she was a hand-me-down from my sisters, actually. And then the first pony that I actually had that was my own, was a pony that was given to me by Melanie Smith, who is the 1984 Olympic gold medalist in the show jumping. And she gave me the pony, and she was only 2 years old, and I was 4. And my Aunt Mindy actually started her for me and put 30 rides on her and then just handed her over to me. And off I went on her. And I had her for a long time, and I got her in the bridle, and I took her on the road with my dad and went to clinics, and me and that pony covered a lot of miles together.
That's so cool. So
Yeah.
I saw something, you posted a picture of a horse Grasshopper, and a little girl is riding him now. So that was a pony that you got to share with someone else. What's the story on that?
Yeah,
horse?
actually, Grasshopper is a colt that we raised out of one of my ponies. So I had a little pony named Miss Kitty that kind of was famous in her own right, that a lot of people, you know, I'd take her places and people knew Miss Kitty. And she's a little black pony with four white stocking legs and a big white blaze and blue eye. And I rode her, and I showed her at the Californios actually when I was little. And we bred her to my Patty's Irish Whiskey stud that was on the cover of America's Horse with me earlier this year. And I got Grasshopper. And he almost died as a baby. He was 12 hours old, and he had an impaction. And thank goodness for our amazing vets in Sheridan. And they did surgery on him, and weren't really set up to do surgery, but they did surgery on him, and they saved his life. And so he's kind of a little bit of a survivor. And this little girl named Kaysen came up and saw him in the pasture when he was a weanling, and she just fell in love with him. And her mom was there starting a colt and dad's colt starting clinic. And every time we couldn't find Kaysen, we'd find her over with Grasshopper. And so her mom asked if she could buy Grasshopper, and it's pretty much impossible to say no to a 5-year-old little girl that's crying, wanting to buy your pony. So she got Grasshopper, and she started him actually, and she put her first couple rides on him. So kind of neat, and he's coming too. So it'll be cool to see, the legacy kind of live on with, all those ponies that I got to grow up riding and, see their babies raising little kids. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are your plans for Christmas this year? What's normally the Christmas season look like for you?
Well, I actually just got back from my parents' house in Sheridan for Thanksgiving, and my dad informed me that we have a lot of colts to start and we have a lot of babies to halter break. So we're going to have a very cold, busy winter break. But I'm excited. It's neat getting to, get your hands on colts that we've raised and everything. We've been with them since the day they were born, up until they're 2-year-olds, and we've got a bunch of 2-year-olds to start and a bunch of weanlings to halter break. So it should be a pretty fun Christmas.
And you just got done. You spent a lot of time actually teaching colt starting college courses in Montana. Is that correct? And you're moving on to new things.
Yep. I just decided that this is the last year that I'm going to teach, and I'm going to finish out the year here and put our sale on just like we do every year. And, it was working for MSU and getting my feet wet in the teaching end of things. This was a perfect opportunity to do it, especially since I was going to school for my business degree at Montana State. So it worked out great because I got to ride all my own horses, teach others, start all my colts, do all that during school. So a lot of people don't have that opportunity while they're going to school to actually be able to have a job at the school. So it was a really neat opportunity, and I love doing it, but I'm 23 years old, and so it's just time to try something else for a little while.
That's
so
very cool.
Are you going to stay around? Are you going to travel a little? Because I think at 23, I wanted to travel.
Yeah, I want to go with my dad a little bit because I've never really had that opportunity to get to travel with my dad. When I was little, I'd go during the summers and, take my pony along. But now that I'm actually a little older, I think it'd be, I really have a lot to learn, and I want to go with him and get that chance and be able to travel with him on the road and ride my own horses and grow with them and do some marketing with the horses that we're raising and whatnot. And so I think that'd be a really good opportunity for me to just kind of dive back into that end of it a little bit. And then I'd like to move back to Sheridan and potentially start an internship program in Sheridan and have people there and come ride with dad, come ride with me, come start horses, start colts, whether it be, here at Montana State, it's a year-long program. So you have to be enrolled as a student at MSU, but I'd like to do something kind of similar, but more along the lines of shorter term, not year-long. So I just kind of am in the planning stages of it, but my long-term goal is just to keep doing what I'm doing, but just depends on where that's going to be.
What's one of your favorite?
A good thing. Oh, sorry. After you.
No. I was going to say, what's one of your favorite parts about working alongside your dad?
Oh, that he is never, he's never afraid to call me out on things that I need to work on. That's my favorite part. And I think a lot of people, they think just because I'm teaching that, it doesn't mean that I don't have a lot to learn. And, every year, my dad's not afraid to get on one of my horses and say, oh, you really need to fix this. You need to do this different. You need to help me. He's there to help me, and he's there to educate me, just like I'm trying to do to other people. But, and I love that because it's never a case where I feel like I have learned enough. There's always something for me to take from my dad, and he's always willing to tell me what I need to work on. And that's something that, I will never take for granted.
Yeah, that'd be nice to say, hey, Dad, you're like one of the top horsemen in the world. Can you just hop on this and let me know what you think?
Yeah, I wish when I asked him to get on one, he would do it. But it's always when, when I don't want him to, or when I want to work on something, then he's like, just get off really quick. It's like, oh,
when you're really open to suggestion is when it comes, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. What were you going to ask, Mary?
I actually don't remember. Well, I was just gonna say I have ADD. I was just gonna say I think it's a really terrific idea what you're wanting to set up with internships and things like that, especially where colts are concerned. Just my little experience in the performance horse world, I think people don't put enough emphasis on the beginning of it all. There's a lot of guys who, once the horse has 30 days, they can take it over, do some pretty cool stuff. But most of what I've seen, a lot of young guys in my area kind of get on a colt and just kind of expect it to already know it and then punish it for not doing something it doesn't know in the first place. So I think that's a really terrific idea, what you're doing with the colts, and I think I'd like to definitely see more of it in the future.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It's something that I've been thinking about for a long time and doing it maybe during the summers while I was still going to teach at MSU. But now that I'm done and I've got my degree and everything, it's, I live in town here and I'm not really used to living in town, even though I've lived in town for 4 years now, living up here 5 years now. But I'm ready to get back to Sheridan and get back to somewhere where I can kind of cover some country on my horses and go do something and, go rope and do the things that I love to do.
So what's your favorite loop to throw? Do you have one?
Oh man. Growing up, it was my dad, he really pushed me to really master throwing a backhand. And I have to say that's probably my favorite shot, just backhand trap, because it's not that difficult of a shot, but it's difficult to throw correctly and make work a lot. So I think that's probably it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm like Mary. I like that you're doing your internship program, and I've really enjoyed watching what you did at MSU. I think there are several college programs out there, but the emphasis that you brought to the start and the real purposeful things that you did with the horses were cool. So
yeah. And I love, it's something that's so cool. It's so rewarding getting to see all these kids, how much time they put into their horses. I mean, they're putting in 40 hours a week on their colts. And they're there at 6 o'clock in the morning every day. And, it's a full-time job to a lot of them, and they want to succeed, and they're not wanting to succeed because of the credit they get, because it's only a 2-credit elective class. They're wanting to do it because they want to do it for themselves, and they want to grow and develop as horsemen. So it's been really cool to get to see that and get to be a part of it.
One thing, I had a few friends that went to a very horse central school program back east. And one of the things I was really surprised to learn, I was wondering if you had any experience with it, is this particular college, Findlay, actually in Ohio, they have actually a Western a major, we can major in riding Western horses or riding English horses. And it was all about horses, and you're riding, that's all what you're studying. But there'd be people who would show up to it who have never been on a horse, and they just decided, you know what, I'm going to go to college and ride horses. Did you ever have people who showed up who had just never done horses at all before?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of times the best kids that I've had come through my program have been ones that have had little to no experience, because it is a clean slate, and there's none of the, so-and-so told me, or this is how I've always done it. It's like, well, I don't know, so tell me what to do. And that's, it's been really neat getting to be around those kids and, teach them from square one and have them really get confident asking questions and not be embarrassed necessarily that they don't know anything, but just be completely open to knowledge. Having someone, say, this is how you do this and this is why you do this. And then for me as a teacher, getting to grow and develop in my teaching methods and be able to say, okay, do you understand how I'm explaining this? And, if they say no, it's like, all right, well, that's good. Now I can think of another way to explain it. Yeah. So, I've had everything from art majors to engineering to nursing to, across the board. But for the most part, most of them have had some experience riding, and that makes it easy. But we hold tryouts, and, I have had kids join the class that have been in it that have not had any experience on horses, and they've been just as well off, just because, we do emphasize safety so much in the class and making sure that the horses are safe and the riders are safe and the people that buy the horses at the end of the year are safe. So it's, I wish that a lot of people would have that start, especially in this setting, to where someone is there to watch out for them instead of just, going and buying a horse and think they're going to do it.
That's why I hire hosts that have no experience. Like, Tara and Mary because I mold them into the terrific hosts they are today. They didn't know that.
I feel like that's sort of a backhanded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm going to take it as a compliment. That's just what
There you go, Glenn. 100%. He's insulted every host every hour, and I thought you guys were going to be immune, but you're not.
Yeah. So, Reata, you also said that you like to cook. So, are you going to help with the holiday meal this December?
Oh yeah, I usually do. Yeah,
And
no, we just had Thanksgiving, and my sisters and I all cooked, but they definitely put the majority of it on me. Okay.
So what's your favorite thing to cook for Christmas?
Oh, well, we're a little bit non-traditional in the fact that, we usually just have steak for dinner for Christmas dinner. So it's not really any different than any other time. But, my dad usually comes up with something that he wants to try, and he'll put it in front of me and say, "Here, try to make this. This looks really good."
Yeah. Here's a recipe.
That's the perfect
Yep,
time
exactly.
to experiment is around the holidays. Is when you want to try all your new stuff. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Reata. And where can folks find out more about you and follow what you're doing and keep up with you?
Well, you can follow me on Facebook and also Instagram. I usually post my daily doings on Instagram and horses that I have for sale and where I'm at and where I'm going. So you can follow me on there. And it's just Reata, just straight Reata is my name on there.
All right. Well, thank you, Reata, and we'll look forward to seeing all of your success in the future.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
I'm very happy to welcome to the show today Barbara Strawson, a gal I've been able to meet through the help of Janet over at Daily Dose Equine. Why don't you start, Barbara, by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay. Well, I'm a dressage trainer in the D.C. area, Clarksburg, Maryland, and I've been training for many years now, and mostly dressage. I train, compete, and teach dressage riders and also event riders.
They tend to go together, don't they? Any dressage trainer always has a percentage of eventing riders too, don't they?
I think so, yes. Yeah, so it's fun to help them out.
Yeah. So, as I said, I got to meet you through Janet over at Daily Dose Equine. So I wanted to ask you, how did you come to know about Daily Dose Equine, horse feeds, and ration balancers?
Well, I actually knew Janet through the community, and she actually called me and told me about her feed, and I thought, yeah, I would be happy to try it. I had one horse that was a pretty picky eater, and I said, well, let's try with him first, because if it doesn't work with him, it's not going to work. So we started. His name was Almacelli. It was my Grand Prix horse. And we started, I believe it was with the senior feed, and he stayed eating that longer than any feed I'd tried. I'd tried several different kinds. He'd eat for a little bit and then get sick of that, and so maybe it was ulcer related and things like that. But
makes you think of that Life cereal commercial, doesn't it? Mikey likes it.
It did, exactly, and that's exactly what I said. Yeah, he'll eat it. Mikey will eat it. He'll eat anything. So yeah, that's how we got started with it. And then once we, I don't remember, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. So once we started with him and felt sure that he liked it, then we started putting the other horses on it. So now all horses at my stable are on it.
So once you got started, your Grand Prix horse was the litmus test. Okay, he likes it.
Yes.
He's doing well on it. What changes did you notice in the herd as you started getting everybody transferred over to the Daily Dose feeds? Did you notice anything change about the way they looked, the way they behaved, how much you were feeding?
Yeah, I mean, several different things. I mean, certainly the last thing you just mentioned with the amount, I mean, with the Daily Dose feed, we didn't have to feed as much volume. It's very concentrated, and there were some horses that were on so much volume of feed to get all the nutrients and things that they that they needed, that it was like, just so much to, give them and get them to eat it all. So that actually was a really big change for me. And I just, overall, all the horses just have consistently looked good. They're shiny. They've got dapples. And I just remember one other notable time, one of the horses that was a very easy keeper. She's on the Carbuster. We took her for a vet checkup. And I mean, the vets just couldn't say enough how beautiful she looked and how great her weight looked and how her coat looked. And just, so that was just really clear to me that part of that, I mean, certainly it's the whole program, but, very important part of the program is the feeding. So that was really, really telling to me. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And how many horses do you currently have using the Daily Dose products?
I have 8 horses in my barn.
That's a lot of horses, girl. I'm going to let you go then and get finished with your riding. You're a busy woman. Well, thank you very much, Barbara, for spending a few minutes with us today and telling us about your experiences with Daily Dose Equine, which is available, by the way, nationwide through Chewy. You just Google Daily Dose Equine. You can also buy it direct from Daily Dose Equine, who is on the East Coast. Just put in there dailydoseequine.com. Thanks again, Barbara.
Okay, so we have Kristen Bentley on the phone. She's one of our auditors in our really cool auditor group who provide us with all these awesome questions. And you have a question about separation anxiety. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, and it looks like lots of other people maybe had that question too. So.
And I get this question all the time.
So tell us your problem. Tell us your problem, Kristen. Please tell us. We want to know.
Yeah, so
we're here to help.
I've got 3 horses. They live all out together. I have 2 that I ride regularly, so I rotate between those 2. Sometimes both of those get to go out at the same time. And then I have a 3rd horse who is a pasture potato. And the potato is like the perfect potato. He does not care when people leave him. I've hauled those other 2 horses away, for all day stuff, and I don't even think he looks up. So he's the perfect pasture companion. But if he is the one that leaves, one of those horses in particular gets very, very upset. It's very rare that horse needs to leave, but I found out the hard way in the fall when I was trying to lay up an injured horse in a small pen. Even though the small pen was inside the sacrifice paddock with the other 2 horses there, he just could not handle it. So I ended up having to lay him up in the bigger paddock, and that slowed down the injury, recovery and all that. So I decided over the winter that I was going to work on hopefully being able to train these guys to enjoy a little more time apart from each other, to set them up for success, just in the event, in an emergency that I need to have them separated and happy. So I'll tell you what I did last night is I took out the potato and I put him in a small pen where he was kind of at a fight from the other guys. I tied one horse in the barn with a snack bag, and then the one with the most separation anxiety stayed in the sacrifice pen. And I just waited for him to settle down. But I don't know if that is the way to keep doing that going forward, because it was kind of a stressful, half hour of him pacing and screaming. And, I'm not sure if I'm going to cause more stress with that long term, or if that's really how I should be doing that to build a little more independence.
Well, kudos to you for recognizing that. Maybe we should practice on this. So in case we're in an emergency and we have to separate these horses, it's not pandemonium. And I think you've got a really good idea and a really good start. Full disclosure, I have never really had this issue myself, and I think it's because I have so many pasture potatoes that even my kookiest horses, they always have a potato to lean on in case their favorite potato is gone.
I want that on a T-shirt. I always have a potato to lean on. I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if I got another potato, like that's the easy solution. I could just get more horses, because I didn't have this issue when I had 7, but 7 is too many. So, and I do realize that 3 is a weird number. So if I had 4, that would make it a little simpler. But that's not necessarily the solution I want.
So an idea that you might consider, and I will definitely I don't know where I was going that with. So something you might consider is, so when, like, if you take one horse out to work the horse, do you have the same anxiety and separation, or is it just when you haul a horse out?
It's really just when I take the potato away from the others. So I'll ride the other two, and I can take them out, and they stand quietly in the barn to hang out, get groomed and ridden, and I can ride them out alone. I ride alone most of the time, and they're out of sight and out of view of the barn pretty much the whole time. So there's a little bit of barn sourness, that I fight on the way home. So we just do a lot of side passing and backing and moving their feet when they're ridden. But it's definitely not like to a dangerous point. So if they're the ones, and I say they, it's really the one horse. If he's the one to leave, it's fine. If he's the one that is left, that's not okay.
Okay.
Hey, let's simplify this because I'm getting confused. So we have Potato. What are the names of the other two horses?
Yeah, we could just use their real names. So
we can use their real names. It's okay. This is a safe zone.
Yeah, they won't listen to the show, unfortunately, so they won't know we're talking about them. So Skip is our retired quarter horse Potato. Then we have Jobber and Shorty. So Jobber, if he's left behind, is not okay with that. Jobber can go out and work and be great, and he hauls alone, goes to horse shows alone. He's actually much better at horse shows. Shorty, he is much better at home. Like, I can tie him in the barn and leave him alone as long as he's got food in front of him. You can tie him and leave him anywhere. At a show, Shorty is much worse. So it's interesting that they kind of flip-flop when they're off property. But generally, both Shorty and Jobber can leave the barn and go to work and work happily and then come home and be fine. So it's just if Skip leaves. So one area that's really a problem, in addition to, any kind of stall rest or layup that I have to do, in the spring, I'll start rotating these guys onto grass pasture, and that's about a 10-minute walk away from the barn. So what I did last year, as a really lazy equestrian, was lead all three at the same time. But I would like to get away from doing that because it's very hard to go through that many gates with three horses in hand. So I would really like to be able to lead them just for safety and for, my own peace of mind long term, be able to lead them one at a time and leave one in the pasture while one is in transit and not have them screaming and running fence lines.
Interesting. Jen, do you have any ideas on this one while my brain is percolating on it?
To build on what you did the first time. So what you did yesterday is you left Potato.
Jobber stayed in the pasture. Yep.
Potato stayed in the pasture.
Jobber stayed at home. Yep. Skip went out, and Skip got put in a catch pen on the other side with a beef barn between them, so he couldn't really, I think from certain angles, Jobber could kind of catch a glimpse of him.
Okay, so
and then Shorty went to the barn with a hay net.
Okay, so Jobber was the one that was upset.
Yes.
Okay, so building on that, can you take Jobber, leave him in the same field with Potato, get rid of Skipper, let Skip go, or Shorty, let Shorty go elsewhere, so he's out of the equation, and can you safely tie Jobber inside the field with Potato?
I thought of that. I don't know that I have a good place. Like, I like to tie them at wither height or above. And I don't really have a good spot that I feel is very safe to tie him where he's not going to end up tied, below the wither.
Yeah.
Like, I have a fence.
Right.
Post,
what I'm thinking of is separate Jobber from Potato, but only by a few feet. So they're in separate areas, but they're literally a few feet apart. And because thinking about this, I'm wondering if moving Jobber away is absolutely the right way to go, but to make it in much smaller increments.
Yeah, little baby steps.
Teensy baby steps. And the reason I think of this is because our new greyhound, Pickles, everything was going swimmingly until it wasn't. And I had to take a little step back and go, I wasn't recognizing the fact that she was getting more and more stressed about things until she went over the edge. Obviously, she was giving me signals that she was stressed, and I didn't recognize them. So let's back up and back up and back up and back up. So try to move him away and separate him in tiny enough pieces that you can recognize the tiniest little bit of stress and let him get comfortable with that tiny little bit. Kind of like what you were talking about earlier in the show, Mary, with the ground tying tiny little bits. Take one more step, and keep it at 5 steps until 5 steps are super, super easy. But you have to work within the facility and what you've got available. So,
yeah, that's the challenging part for sure. Is carving out the room to make.
Do they also eat alone? Like when they get their grain, do they eat alone?
Yep, because Skip lives on air. He's the typical quarter horse air plant. So, the thoroughbreds come in and eat separately. I mean, they're both in the barn together.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like the daily coming in to get groomed and saddled and ridden is not the issue. It's really just Skip going somewhere else. So what I'm gathering is that, it's going to be stressful. There's no way around that. But we're trying to just mitigate the stress and putting it into manageable little chunkies rather than
how about you, Mary?
Ripping off the Band-Aid and taking Skip away.
Yeah. How about you, Mary?
Exactly. Yeah. So both like with the stationary thing I was talking about earlier and the deworming, whenever you're building new behavior, you're building duration and their ability to endure something longer. If it's, going to heck in a handbasket, the thing you always want to do is, if you can, is break it down more. So if I know my horse won't tolerate something for several minutes, can he tolerate it for a few seconds? And that seems like you're trying to climb Everest when you're starting out, but all you got to do is, I'm going to tack on another second, tack on another second, tack on another second. And they eventually build the emotional maturity to be able to endure that and be okay. And like with using approach and retreat on the dewormer I was talking about earlier, there is, if you think about a horse's kind of emotions and their state of being, if you think about it like a pyramid, at the very apex of that pyramid is when the horse is in fight, flight, complete panic mode. That's the horse trying to survive. So he thinks he's going to die. He's going to do whatever it takes to live. He cannot learn in that area. So that's the horse who's trying to run off, run backwards, break the cross ties to get away, screaming, that the horse can't learn. He's just trying to survive. At the very bottom of the pyramid is the horse incomplete. He doesn't feel threatened in any way. He's grazing. He's with his friends. Everything's wonderful, low energy. That's a great place for the horse to live too, but not a lot of learning. You could get a lot of training done there, but where they're really going to learn and progress the most is that middle zone. So this is where the horse is like, something's going on. I'm not sure about this, but he's not jumped the border into that freaking out. He's going to hurt himself or someone else. We never want to have them there. And that seems like that's where your guy's going when, you take the potato away and he's just like, panic. Well, now all you can do is just hope he doesn't run into a fence or hurt himself or something like that. So we need to get him into that kind of middle area somehow, either by, leading the other horses away for moments, increments, and have him kind of live in that area and learn it's going to be okay. And then when you feel him kind of accept it and, okay, I'm fine, then you can release all the pressure and give him a break and bring the other horse back and then try again. So I'm thinking about how I would deal with this if I had this situation going on myself. And I know that what your property, it can be limiting in what you're able to do. But how I would imagine working on it would be to make sure every horse's behavior to stand tied is on point and they can stand tied for long periods of time. I think that's really good for any horse, no matter what you're doing. And I would kind of make it a habit to bring, like if you're working them all, I'm going to bring all the horses up and they're going to stand tied or they're going to stand in the stall while I mess with the other horse. And that just kind of becomes a habit. We're all going to go here. You're going to stand in the stall or you're going to stand tied. I'm going to work this horse, put that horse back, tie that horse up or put him in a stall, get the next horse out and just kind of make that a habit. And you can practice that with leading horses away, obviously with tying horses up. You want to make sure that behavior is really good and you don't just like take the other horse completely away cold turkey. But I think that can help put the horse in a frame of mind of, okay, this is the time when we're working on patience and everything's quiet. And it just seems to kind of control the situation a lot better. I think you're on the right track. I understand what you're saying about, is this just going to stress these horses out to the nines trying to practice this? And I don't think so. I think you're wise enough to see when things have kind of gone over the edge and it's a little too much. The key is you want that horse, you want that horse to kind of deal with discomfort a little bit without completely panicking. And you want him to deal with that in small increments before giving him that relief, which is, hey, you did that for a few minutes. That's great. Let's stop the training for a bit. Let's take a break, or let's work on it tomorrow. And that's the way you can start changing that behavior in the horse. The other thing that you might consider, because I'm a huge enabler, is if you have room for one more, is to, some sort of companion animal like a donkey can help quite a bit.
I think I will founder a donkey immediately because our pasture in the summer is very low. But
yeah,
I had
that's
it all
true.
worked out in my head. If I had 2 riding horses and then got a draft team, then I never have more than 2 horses out at a time. So that's the eventual goal, but I've already got my hay in for this winter, so I'm on a pretty strict budget. So, but yeah, eventually, ideally, if everyone had 2 horses on the draft team, nobody would ever have this problem because you always have a minimum of 2 horses back in the corral. But yeah, no, thanks. That's very, very helpful. So I think I am approaching it the right way. I just got to chunk it down into some safer baby steps. I had to just sit there and basically watch, and wait. And there was a little bit of trotting the fence line and calling, and after about half an hour, that settled down. And then in total, after 2 hours, of other farm chores and stuff, he was standing alone. I had moved him into the barn at one point. He stood alone in the barn and was eating and had settled down. But, thinking, I don't know if I have that much time to devote to this activity.
Yeah, this is such a patience game. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bless you for taking it on. Yeah.
I got to bring a book with me to the barn and just sit and wait it out. But now I think breaking it down into some smaller baby chunks is the right way to do it for sure. So thank you guys very much.
Well, thank you.
We'll give you guys a report by the end of the winter.
Yeah, give us a report. Post videos of them standing still.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, that'll be the day. I'll send you a photo and tell you it's a video.
There we go.
You can admire. So.
Awesome. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Have a good rest of your morning.
Cool. Yeah, that's such a patience game. We have one here that lives at the farm that is Buddy Sour. And bless her heart, the gal who owns the horse, she takes the tiniest, itsy bitsiest little steps. I mean, just to catch the quiet horse and with a lead rope, walk him around the paddock without ever doing anything with the worried horse. When she started out, that would send the worried horse into an absolute meltdown. Just the other horse being caught and walked around. And now she's gotten him to the point that pretty consistently she can take the quiet guy and he can leave the paddock and go to the barn, which is adjacent to the paddock, and get groomed, where he's usually out of sight, but the horse knows he's in the barn. And panicky horse will only panic for, a minute or 3, and then he settles back down. But it's probably been a year of really consistent work to get to that point. It's a long game.
Wow. And when it comes to things like this, which it's easy to think, well, this has nothing to do with the writing I'm doing. And, it can feel like a monumental waste of time. But, symptoms like this of the severe anxiety, separation anxiety and stuff, it is going to show up in the rest of what you do with your horse. So if you have to take the time to work on this every day, don't feel like you're wasting any time. It will make your horse better all the way around.
Oh, absolutely.
Building that kind of maturity in them and that ability to endure things that they don't always find perfectly comfortable. It helps you out in other areas, and it's definitely worth working on. And I commend anyone who's taking on that challenge.
Yeah, it does. it has they have a fancy name for it, but it does have a global effect on the horse when he develops that mindset and that emotional maturity that you talked about. It does spill over into other areas of their life in small ways at first, and then you'll see that keep building and building and building. So, yay, team. What a great question.
Yes. Challenging. Good question.
Challenging, good questions. And speaking of challenges, it can be a real challenge to find a good quality saddle pad that helps your saddle not just fit, but fit better. So the folks over at Total Saddle Fit have come up with one. And after years of refinement, it's the perfect saddle pad. What a clever name. It is designed with everything you would expect from a top-of-the-line 100% wool saddle pad, but with a plethora of performance and comfort features that you're not going to find anywhere else. The perfect saddle pad comes with Wither Freedom, which is a cutback design over the withers that completely removes any downward pressure on the horse's sensitive withers. It also allows for more clearance and less bulk under the front of the saddle. The Wither Freedom is paired with ventilated top line with 1.5-inch openings channeled over the top line, and it eliminates pressure there as well. And because it's total saddle fit, free shipping, everything, everywhere. That's right. So go to totalsaddlefit.com and you just click on the perfect saddle pad made for Western saddles. And it comes in different designs for different styles of saddles. So whether you ride pleasure, ride on the ranch, or do barrel racing, they've got something that's going to fit for you. So go to totalsaddlefit.com and check it out today. Woohoo! And I think,
awesome.
I think that's going to be about wrapping it up for today. So for folks who want to find out more about what you do with horses as well as artwork, where's the best place to find you online, Mary?
You can find me across social media at Mary Kitzmiller Horsemanship on Facebook, and it's the same for Instagram. And for jewelry and stuff, the company is Troublemaker Trading Company, also on Facebook and Instagram. And we've got a lot of cool stuff on the website. I'm getting ready to put a lot of ready-to-ship stuff. So if you are doing last-minute Christmas shopping, you can find us there. And, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Well, thank you again for listening. Again, Mary is here the second Thursday of every month. We geek out on all things horse training. All of Mary's episodes are easy to find. You just go to horsesinthemorning.com. And right there in the center of the page, you're going to see all the different logos from our monthly shows, and Mary Kitzmiller is right there. She's got years and years and years of Q&A and interesting interviews there, and there's bound to be something that's going to apply to your horsey life. And many thanks to our sponsor today. Our title sponsor is Horseware. Head on over to horseware.com and look for the 12 days of the holidays. And if it's not the holidays when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this episode in 2022, head on over to horseware.com and see what kind of cool stuff they've got for you and your horse. And that's going to be about a wrap for today. So we will be back again tomorrow with more fun and games on Horses in the Morning.